Hello, I'm Juan Pablo Rodriguez. I'm the Education Specialist for Navy Recruiting District San Antonio. And I'm here to summarize our Educator Orientation Visit to San Diego, California, where we had the opportunity to take 9 educators this year to San Diego, California. We had the privilege to fly from several parts of Texas to San Diego, where we rendezvoused. We got together there. We had an opportunity to go to the Navy Exchange to go shopping. That is the area, the shopping mall, where sailors and Marines from the Department of the Navy have an opportunity to go and get their clothing, their commissary items, and their furniture. After leaving the Navy Exchange, we had the opportunity to go to the Navy Gateway Inn at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, where we lodged and stayed there for the next 4 nights. After we had an opportunity to get everybody checked into the lodging place and rest a while, we got together and had an evening event at Old Town San Diego, at Casa del Reyes, where we enjoyed a great Mexican dinner and had the opportunity to break the ice and get to know one another. Everyone had an opportunity to introduce themselves and tell us where they came from and what it is they did. Day 2 of our Educator Orientation Visit gave us the opportunity for those that wanted to exercise in the morning to be up at 5 in the morning to go for a run or for a jog or for a walk. Be back, and then we had the privilege to go and visit the galley, the place where sailors would go and eat, and had breakfast with them, had the opportunity to converse with some of them. After that, we came back, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, we boarded the vans to begin the Naval Installation Tourings, where we had the opportunity to go to the USS Carl Vinson, an aircraft carrier. We had a wonderful tour there. We spent about 2 hours on the carrier. The educators had the opportunity to go to the different spaces on the carrier. They got to see the mess hall. They got to see the flight line, the bridge, where the place where the ship is driven from. After the USS Carl Vinson, we had the opportunity to go to the Landing Craft Air Cushion Unit, which is a simulator that is a vessel that rides boats on land and at sea. And it is a simulator, so it is a place where the sailors practice, and the educators had an opportunity to go in it and experience just like a Disney ride, where they could simulate the sea states and the conditions where sailors would encounter at sea. After the LCAC, we broke for lunch, and after enjoying lunch, we went to a helicopter assault squadron, where we had the opportunity to see the Navy in action as an aviation Navy. We had an opportunity to visit with the commanding officer of the squadron. He gave us a brief, told us the capabilities of the squadron. We met with some of the pilots, and then we met with some of the enlisted guys that take care of the helicopters, and we enjoyed a good time taking pictures with the helicopters. After the helicopter squadron tour, we headed to Point Loma, the submarine base, and we had the privilege to go on board the USS Pasadena, which is a fast attack submarine. Our educators had the opportunity to tour and to see the living conditions of the sailors on a submarine. We divided the group in 2 parts, and there were 2 simultaneous tours going on at the same time, where sailors explained to us the different equipment that they have on the submarine and how it operates, their style of living, and they talked about the camaraderie that they enjoy and how it is a close family on those submarines. After our submarine tour, we headed to the San Diego harbor, where we boarded the Hornblower, which is a dinner cruise boat. We had the privilege to be in the San Diego Bay for 3 hours while we enjoyed a fine dinner. During dinner, we had the time to debrief the day and how things went. The educators asked a lot of questions about what they had seen in the Navy, and much was said about how much they had learned even in that first day about what the Navy does and what it actually is. The morning of day 3, we had the opportunity to go visit with the Navy SEALs at BUD/S. We went to the SEAL compound, where our educators had an opportunity to see a PowerPoint presentation about the program of Navy SEALs and the SWIC program, which is a boat assault craft unit, and the things that are required for an individual to be able to apply for the Navy SEALs and what it takes to be an actual Navy SEAL. After the presentation, we went over to the obstacle course, where they had a few of the applicants for Navy SEAL school display what it takes for an individual to go around the obstacle course. After the obstacle course, we went over to the SEAL compound again, and we had a display of the weapons that the Navy SEALs use in combat. They were set up on a table, and the educators had an opportunity to be able to handle those weapons. Obviously, they were cleared and unloaded, and our educators were able to take pictures with them. The Command Master Chief of the SEAL School came over and gave us a brief as to the type of individuals that they're looking for, what it takes, and some of the sacrifices they go through to become Navy SEALs. After visiting with the Navy SEALs, we headed over to the Assault Craft Unit 1, which gave us an opportunity to visit and tour the San Diego Harbor on an actual Navy vessel. We had a boat crew of about 6 individuals, Navy personnel, that gave us a safety brief first, gave us the opportunity to put on the life jackets, and then we went on board the boat that they were going to utilize. And they gave us a great tour of the San Diego Harbor from the standpoint of the Navy. We visited the Naval Station San Diego underwater, where we had the opportunity to see the different types of ships that are there, that are Navy ships. And while we were seeing them, we had a description of what the capabilities are of the different vessels that the Navy has. After our San Diego Harbor tour, we went over to the Naval Medical Center San Diego, where we received a brief about the capabilities of the hospital, and they also told us what Navy corpsmen and Navy doctors do in combat. After our brief, we went over to a room where they have the simulators. They have actual simulation mannequins where doctors are able to practice surgery. After we left the hospital in San Diego, we went over to the Seaport Village, San Diego, which is an area downtown San Diego, and our educators had an opportunity to visit different shops, and we went over to dinner at the Top of the Market restaurant, which is one of the finest restaurants in San Diego. For our last day in town, we had an opportunity in the morning to visit the Pacific Beacon Housing Unit, which is a building where sailors stay. It is a project that the Navy worked on with a private builder. The state-of-the-art building where sailors have an opportunity to house while they're in port. A beautiful place to visit. After our housing tour, we had an opportunity to visit the Undersea Rescue Command. The United States Navy has the only unit like it in the world. They're on call 24/7 to assist any place in the world for the recovery of personnel from submarines. During this tour, our educators had an opportunity to visit and see some of our decompression apparatus that we have in the United States Navy for our deep sea divers, and how individuals would do a dive and then be able to decompress at certain levels of descendants. We had an opportunity to visit the ship simulator unit, where naval officers and naval commanding officers have the opportunity to virtually practice coming in and out of ports in different parts of the world. While visiting this simulator, we had the privilege to see how NASA is on board a naval installation in San Diego, practicing with the Navy with the future space capsule that they have. The Navy would be involved with NASA in the recovery of that capsule when the astronauts return to Earth. As we closed our last day in San Diego, we had the privilege to go see sailors working with the military working dogs. Sailors train these dogs to be the companions of our sailors and Marines as they're in combat zones. And some of those dogs are explosive dogs. They're able to detect explosives as we move through the combat zone. Our debrief took place on one of the Navy beach properties. We had the opportunity to barbecue on the beach and build a fire on the beach, and every educator had an opportunity to give their highlights of the trip. All of the feedback that they gave us that evening was positive. They learned much about the Navy. They had a great opportunity to visit with the sailors. We want to thank all of the school districts that participated during the 2014 Educator Orientation Visit, and we look forward to next year.